Welcome back to the podcast. This week, it's all about getting started in photography. And this week's sponsors are Fujifilm and Studio Access, but more on them later. So in today's episode, we'll be covering the perfect candidate to being a professional photographer, the worst candidate. We have an interview with a very interesting new photographer that I'm very pleased to share. I've already filmed the interview, so I know what's said in it. You've got no idea, Rob, but that's about the same as usual, I guess, isn't it?
Well, I had a sneak preview earlier when I was setting up the timeline for you.
That's true, yes. You had a little look, but a very, very talented photographer. We're going to talk about understanding what the industry actually is and the easiest and hardest ways to get into it and the stupid things people do just because they've always done it, which I think is universal in all industries. There's always that one person, like, why'd you do it that way? We've always done it that way. It's like, great, nice one. And then we're going to do, of course, a bit about the gear you need to be a professional photographer. I'm joined once again by our host, Rob. Hi, Rob.
How do?
And I guess for this one here, it's all about factual information. So we're just going to dive right into it, I suppose. And just so everyone knows, this is not for anybody who wants to get into photography. This is for people who want to do it to make money. Oh, I've got ice in my glass. There's going to be some like ASMR every time I drink now, isn't it?
If it's not removed by the AI cancellation, of course.
Which we love. So, I mean, where do we begin with this? There's two types of people that come into photography that I've witnessed. And it'd be good to know if you recognise this at all, Rob. But both of us sit in the same camp. And I think the majority of people listening to this will be in the same camp that we're in, because I do think it's the majority of people. The worst candidate, which is us, is somebody who goes and buys a camera and then decides what to do with it. They go, oh, cameras are cool. What should I photograph? This is one of the most futile, long-winded and difficult ways to get into photography compared to the person who goes, I've got a creative idea. What medium should I use to portray it? I think photography might be the best medium. I don't know whether you've come across both of these people or not, but...
Well, I am absolutely one of them.
Yeah, same. I'm the exact same one as you.
I mean, I literally bought my first camera when I turned 40 because I didn't have one.
Yeah.
And no reason other than that. And I had no plans to do anything with it at all.
I think I just bought one because I was traveling around the world at the time. I was like, I should probably take some pictures of this, and smartphones weren't a thing.
Well, they certainly weren't a thing to the level they are now.
No. I had the Panasonic point and shoot with the Leica lens, which obviously was just a Panasonic lens with a Leica badge.
Yeah.
It was a nice camera though at the time. Looking back at the images now, they still look good. Just straight out of camera. You know, can't complain.
But again, that's documenting things in time, and there'll always be something timeless about that.
Exactly. So we represent the worst kind of photographer to make it in the industry because we were first interested in the tech. And the reason it makes us the worst is because we go and learn a load of technical information that has no use in the real world. I think it's fair to say we've both done that. There's like, I don't know, for example, I know things about film, like the film stock, not moving image film, that nobody needs to know unless you're a professional printer or a professional darkroom. But I know it because I learnt it. Yeah,
and you learnt it because he started off as a hobby.
It did so well. It didn't last long as a hobby, actually.
No.
It was very quickly out of the gate.
Yes, but that again, and that's how how he came to be here today.
But it's very much definitely a hobby. Now, on my one-to-one service, which is currently changing because I don't have enough hours in my life anymore, we've worked with a lot of photographers, and there have been this year 3 of them who've been photographers for under 2 years, have signed with agents and shot worldwide ad campaigns. And all 3 of them decided they liked a certain thing, whether it was they're really into fashion, one was really into sport, and one was really into graphic design. And all 3 of them decided photography would be the medium that they'd portray their interest in. And all 3 of them have been highly successful at a rate of knots. And I think there's definitely an advantage to getting into photography because it's the medium to portray the thing you want to portray, rather than getting into photography and then going, right, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah, now what?
You get in, you learn all the tech, you learn all how many hours have we wasted on like DxO scores and stuff?
Oh, many.
And this is coming from somebody who doesn't care about kit, but like hours, weeks of my life would have been spent on websites like, oh, what was that guy in the past who used to review? I look back on his website recently, and I used to like take whatever was on there as gospel, and it is so incorrect.
Yeah, I know the guy you mean.
It's a one-man band. His name will come to me later. He shoots everything in JPEG. Anyway, him. Look back at some of that stuff now. The reviews are completely pointless. Like, you know, it's a great archive of information in that sense. It's very good for what it is. But in turn, like, I was basing like camera purchases off that information, which has no relevance whatsoever to being a professional.
Yeah, but again, that was, you know, earlier days of the internet.
It was very much the early. There wasn't many options back then. Back then, I used to watch Chase Jarvis, whose channel was brilliant. Go into Chase Jarvis's channel and flip it to oldest first. Those videos are absolute bangers. Carl Taylor, Jared Polin, his channel was really good back then. It was literally going out shooting, and I was shooting gigs as well at the time, so that was really good.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a great deal of content out there, so yeah, a lot of the information we got was wrong. But there's definitely two types of candidates in the photography world, and you can't really change which one you are. You are what you are. But what you need to be aware is, if you've come into it from the direction that Rob and I have come into it from, you're going to waste years of your life learning techniques in kit, which are completely irrelevant. I think it's a fair...
Yeah. That's
say.
completely fair.
I mean, I remember learning lighting setups as if they were a thing. Like, off-the-peg lighting setups.
Again, based on the limited amount of content that there was, sort of... I mean, I bought my first camera 11 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, that's all there was. You know, the Adorama adverts and everything else. You know, it was like with, was it Gavin, whatever his name was, and it's just like, oh, okay, so that's how you do that then.
Yeah.
And then of course, that was all everybody wanted. And again, the quick fix of how do I shoot an interview? You do it here with 3 lights, and this is how you do that.
Yeah. I mean, we've currently got 4 lights. So we've got a softbox and 3 bounce lights off the ceiling. I'm pretty sure I've never seen this lighting setup in my life. It's just that the light outside today is particularly funky, so we've had to
it's particularly
compromise.
Grey and miserable December day over here.
Walking the dog at 6 in the morning in the pitch black, not the one. But yeah, I mean, you come from the background you come from. If you're lucky enough to be one of these lucky people who's gone, photography is the medium I'm going to use, you are just...
Yeah, because like all things, to walk the path, you need to know the path.
Yeah.
And I bimbled and just fell into all this just by complete accident. You were slightly more deliberate in that you spent a lot less time in as a hobbyist than I did.
Yeah, but out of necessity, I had to make money. I didn't have a job. That's the other thing. Is like a lot of people are like, oh, I've gone pro. I was like, oh, how come? Lost my job. It's like, right, okay. Nothing wrong with that. That's how I got it. I didn't lose my job, but I got offered a pay rise that I did not want to take because I knew that if I took it, that'd be it.
Yeah,
I'd never leave corporate London.
Your soul would have been sold at that point.
It was enough money to go, yeah, no, not changing for this. And I'd have put it off for years and then done it in my mid to late 40s and then resented the fact I didn't do it sooner. But there we go. So yeah, there's definitely the two types of people. If you are like Rob and I, what I'm trying to get to here is just try and stop learning about tech and kit. It just like, there's not much to a camera. There's 3 settings. That's all you need to know about your camera.
Yeah. Despite the fact there's 18,000 menus, oh my God. You don't change any of it.
I know. And yeah, 3 settings, you're good to go. Buy one decent lens, either a 24-70 if that's what suits you, or just a single prime.
I remember one of the earliest things we did as in my early days at least, was the then Dave Lester Comedy Festival.
Oh God, yeah.
And I remember I spent my entire paycheck on one lens.
Yeah,
which I still use to this day, the 50mm Sigma. But I was like, that was such a baller purchase for me at the time.
Yeah.
It cost like twice what my camera did.
I've done that though. I've got like, back in the day, I've got a paycheck and blown the whole thing on a piece of kit. I couldn't even imagine doing that today.
Yeah, but it's a very different paycheck now.
True, but like, yeah, there is that. Yes, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you, lovely clients. But like, I don't know, say that I did a small job and got paid $5,000. There's no way I'd spend $5,000 of that paycheck on an item.
No, because you've understood that the most you could ever spend of that would be 33% of it.
Yes, maximum. And that's assuming I have no other overhead. So
Correct.
Really, I don't have any money because it all gets eaten up. But thankfully, banging segue, thanks for today's sponsor, we're allowed to do these podcasts now, which is Fujifilm. So for those who don't know, and for full transparency, I have purchased my own Fujifilm camera. Sadly, I bought it before they were working with me. In hindsight, there'd have been a better way for me to do that. But I bought my own Fujifilm camera, and the reason was other brands of medium format camera are astronomically expensive. I need a bigger than full frame sensor, and we'll do a whole video on this in the future because everyone's like, no, you don't. You can shoot at micro four thirds. It's like, you can, but you don't. We'll get to that as well a bit more in the kit bit of this, but it's bigger than full frame. It's got better bit depth, which is not something they want me to talk about. It's not on their list of things they're like, oh, can you talk about? But for fellow photographers out there, that bit depth is key, and you'll notice it in the editing.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of the things that attracted you to that particular system.
Yeah, well, it was the first thing that attracted me to an upgrade was bit depth. The second thing was sensor size, because I don't care what anybody says. I come from the film days, and sensor size is everything. You might be able to get megapixels and you might be able to get dynamic range, but sensor size matters, because dynamic range is a pointless measurement anyway, because it's not to do with what the dynamic range is, it's to do with the roll-off. Like, you can have great dynamic range and awful roll-off. You can have great color science and not enough bit depth, and then you start doing something in post and it just goes, oh, crunch.
Well, if you look at your journey through your cameras, it's what was an actual upgrade is an interesting one. I mean, I remember when you moved from the 5D Mark II, which is, I think, your longest serving range of cameras, to the 5DS and the 5DSR.
Yeah.
Now, yes, they had double the amount of megapixels.
But it's not double though, is it? It's non-linear. It's more.
I mean, the number was twice as big.
Yes, that's true.
But when you edited the files and when you look at the work, they still basically look the same. All it allowed you to do was to do a physically bigger image.
Yeah.
And it didn't gain you that much.
But now you can tell.
Oh, completely, yeah.
And so I was checking my dog's not eating more of my National Geographic magazines, which is a meal of choice today. A very professional mid-sponsor. But yeah, you can literally tell. We went back shooting on some of the old cameras for a portrait we did recently, and it wasn't as good. And I mean, I'm a lazy editor. So I also like the X color science. You can just go, I want it to look a bit like this, and we'll tweak it afterwards. And being a film fanatic, I'm just like, yeah. And I like, you can put in, I don't know, different modes in most cameras, but I don't know what it looks like. But if you say Velvia, I'm like, yeah, I know what Velvia looks like. I think everyone should know what Velvia looks like. Everyone should have a proper print from a transparency at some point. And everyone should look at, like, if you probably had your grandparents pull out the little revolving wheel with the slides in it.
Yeah.
That's what I thought slide film was back in the day. Looking at it now on a proper projector, oh my God, it is a different thing altogether. But yes, that's...
And I think, especially with the recent portraiture shoot, the difference in the skin tones.
Oh my word. So it's two, right? One is the skin tones, and that's the color science and the bit depth. The other is being able to stand closer on the same focal length because the sensor is bigger than full frame. And the 3D look it gives you, everyone's like, oh, you can create it by doing this cool thing. It's like, yeah, that doesn't work, taking 90 shots, spraying all around the place and stitching them in post. Can you imagine doing that on a job?
Well, and more importantly, the size of the files.
Oh, geez.
You just wouldn't want to get into it. And the point is, you don't have to. You can do it now in one frame.
Exactly. And I mean, again, I'm probably going to lose my sponsor saying this, but Fujifilm did not ask me to mention price. But compared to other bigger than full frame cameras,
yeah, bang for buck, unbeatable, really.
Absolutely.
Which again is why you purchase one with your own actual money.
I'm tight.
Before any mention of sponsorship for a podcast was even a thing.
Yes, quite. But there we go. So a big thank you to Fujifilm for sponsoring this podcast. Very grateful. It is the reason we're still able to function. Without sponsors, this goes, as everyone found out when season 2 did not take off straight away because we couldn't work out to finance it. So thank you, Fujifilm. Now, what we're going to do now is jump into an interview. I'm not going to give you too much information up top, so it's going to dive right in. Now, before we dive into the interview, there's actually 2 interviews, and they are both some of the emerging talents from Agents at Large. So 2 things. Number 1, these are young, new photographers. Don't be a dick. Number 2, we weren't expecting to get both interviews done. I thought at least one of them would fall through because of logistics of where everyone lives and all the rest of it and time zones and everything else. it wasn't something we expected to work, but it did. So when we recorded the pre-bit and the post-bit, we didn't think we were going to get Emily in, but we managed to do it. So it might not make full sense when you get to the end of the video, but stick with us. Let's dive in. I'm joined today by emerging talent from Agents at Large, Emily Mills, who is a drinks photographer predominantly, but we'll get into that in a bit. And we're going to have a bit of a deep dive into getting into photography, the profession, the path you're taking, what you think you're going to be doing. The equipment you're using, and basically how you've managed to get into this extremely expensive industry, which is quite elitist, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
And very difficult to penetrate. So tell me a bit about yourself and how you ended up getting interested in photography as a creative outlet.
So back in school, basically, I've always been interested in art. I'm very much through my whole childhood has been like drawing, art, all that stuff. It wasn't until I broke my arm. I went to Plymouth Art College, did like a little summer course type thing. My mum was like, "Oh, you need to go out and do something," because I was doing like taekwondo and stuff like that, which you couldn't do with a broken arm, obviously. And that was the first time I like actually used a camera. And I just loved it.
And which year was this in, just to make the rest of us feel quite old here? What year was this?
Well, I was like year 9. So I would have been like 14. So that's about 2014.
About 2014. 2014, there we go.
Yeah.
First camera, digital camera, I assume, for your first camera?
Yeah, it was like a Canon EOS. Like, I don't even know. I don't even use Canon really. So
Canon.
I say EOS as if that's,
I think they're all called EOS.
Yeah.
I think it was FD or EOS.
Really
EOS,
basic, basically. Really basic camera. And I just thought I really love this, you know.
And do you remember what you photographed? What were you taking pictures of?
Oh, it was just like, there was in and around the college, like a little briefy type thing that they made us go and do, just to go snap some pictures in around Plymouth. And I begged for a camera. And that was my first one was a Nikon D250, I think was, like entry
level camera,
something you're going to trust a 14-year-old with. So I used that, and then that was when I decided I was going to do photography for A levels. So when I went into like a few years later, A levels, I did A level photography, art, media studies.
And what were A level? I didn't study art at school at all. What were A level photography like? What did you learn? Was it technical? Was it creative? Both? Or
it was nothing commercial. It was more like creative stuff. We had like massive A3 sketchbooks, all done in a sketchbook. All manual work, manual manipulations, digital manipulations, like very basic Photoshop stuff. And it's so funny because at that point I was like, everything has to be done in camera. I don't believe in editing. Don't believe in editing.
That changes eventually, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, now like editing, I'm like, oh my god, that really changes the picture, how you edit it. But it's strong belief. No, it doesn't need editing. Everything has to be right in camera, right exposure, everything like that.
But I think it's interesting. So like Rob, who may be before us in the podcast today, I don't know, but he knew how to do retouching before he got a camera. Okay. So he didn't bother learning lots of the photography side of things. He's like, I can just do that in post in 5 seconds. Like, why bother moving it in real life when I can do that? Whereas I can't use Photoshop. So I'm like, if it's not right in camera, it's going to be expensive to fix because it pays someone to do it.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably good. I think it's good to have the ethos that you must get it right in camera initially.
Yeah, I still have that. It has to be right in camera. Because otherwise I spend hours doing it in Photoshop. And I don't mind that. I love the Photoshop process and I love editing. But if I can get it right in camera, then that's the best thing.
So you did A levels?
Yeah, I did A levels.
What else did you study alongside photography out of interest?
Art and media studies.
So first you were heading in one direction and one direction only.
It's all or nothing.
Yep.
All or nothing.
Okay.
And I did some moving image work for media studies and which I look back and I was like, that is absolutely shit. That is shocking work. But for like 17, 18. And then I didn't actually know what I was going to do. You know, photography or art was very like in between. And it wasn't until I went to AUB, which is Arts University Bournemouth, went to a lecture, you know, where they're like trying to onboard students.
Yeah.
And I listened to the photography one. I was like, it's good, but it's not really calling my name. And it wasn't until Conrad, who's the course leader at Arts University Bournemouth for commercial photography, until he spoke and showed the images and what you can achieve. I was like, that's it.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one. You know, this person's work was in vogue, and you know that sort of stuff, and the actual like images that they were showing me of what they create on the course. I was like, yeah, that's exactly where I want to go. And then I basically put art media studies aside and just focused on photography for A levels. Made sure that I got my A star, which I did. Got onto the course. I didn't know if that I was going to do product either at that point. I did a little bit of fashion photography. Couldn't really, you know, there's something missing there. Do you know what I mean? Like you're doing stuff and experimenting, trying things, and there was just something missing there for me. Didn't really click. And then second year did my first product shoot, which was Plymouth Gin. Learning all about, you know, that sort of stuff. That was good. And then I think, when was it? Second year starts in September. COVID started.
Yeah, I was about to ask what years were this.
Yeah, so this is, 2019 going into 2020, my second year of university. And we went on a nice trip to Berlin, come back, lockdown.
Nice.
Yeah.
Everyone quarantined and locked away.
Yeah, so that's when I did the Plymouth Gin project, which sort of, did that as a first ever project. And then I did, what was that, second year? I'm trying to think. Must have been. Yeah, because I did all my Plymouth Gin project out in the garden.
Brilliant.
Out in the garden. And was that trying to think. I don't know if that was like the second project or second year. It's just gone it's so far back now that trying to remember stuff is just like, And then, what was my third year? 2020, I graduated 21. Sorry, this is really rubbish content now.
No.
It's like completely like trying to go through the timeline of my life.
That's right, we can cut it short in post. Fear not.
Yeah, basically COVID happened.
Lost all track of time.
Don't know if I was in my second or third year. I don't know. Definitely was in my third year though for COVID. That definitely happened. And then that's when, I interviewed Jonathan Knowles for my dissertation.
Yeah, we know Jonathan.
Yeah, that was really good. Like a really chill chat.
Yeah, he's really cool.
An hour and a half.
Do you know that Pete and him know each other?
Yeah,
he was
vaguely.
his researcher.
Was he?
Yeah, I believe he got fired. I'd imagine he got fired. He got fired from every job.
Oh no, Pete.
Yes. Yeah. There's some sort of a disagreement. They're all chummy now, though. It's all water under the bridge, from what I understand.
Yeah.
His work's amazing. He's like he's been doing it forever, hasn't he?
Jonathan Knowles?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's quite...
Everyone knows him.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're getting into like product and all that stuff, you know, he's one of the first people you research, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely, he was well established when I very first started.
And when was that?
Like 15 years ago. Like he was already like an old hat. And now he's like, but he doesn't seem to age.
No.
Like, I'm not sure. Maybe he's like 90 or something. We just don't know. But like, he doesn't seem to age.
He's got the fountain of youth. That's what it is.
That's what it is. That must be what it is. So your degree, was it creative? Because there's some degrees which are purely like researching the art of photography and others which are
completely creative. Yeah, every project we have like, I think 2 modules running alongside. So I think it's like total 4 modules in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was research papers and things like that. So I did write a dissertation, not a huge, massive dissertation. But yeah, I still have to write a dissertation, which
Yeah.
was still quite a lot of work, alongside like a whole photo project as well.
Yeah.
That's when I did my first like proper piece of moving image, alongside, how many images did I do? Like 4 or 5 images as well.
Yep.
And obviously it's COVID, so
Well, the studio's all out of action. Was it like all doing it from home? And
yeah. I mean, I didn't go back to uni at all for my 3rd year.
how about that felt nice when the bill came for the tuition fees? So it's interesting though. So Karen and I have met with 4 photographers who would have been your age, or plus or minus a year, but spent university in lockdown. And the portfolios they shot during lockdown was so much better than photographers before or after, when they did, like, one of them shot their entire portfolios in bike lights, because that's all they had to light.
Yeah.
So like they're in a house with someone who's got bike lights, so they use bike lights to light everything. But it's interesting that having that lack of, you'd assume that if you haven't got access to like the medium format cameras and all the big pro photo lights, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. But they seemed pretty good with it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I was quite lucky having my parents, really. They invested a lot of money into me, you know, seeing that that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So when COVID came along, my dad bought me a set of lights, 4 Bowens lights. And I had a Nikon D800, D850.
Yeah, the high resolution full frame.
Yeah. So that was my first like proper camera.
Yeah.
And that's great. It's a great camera. And that's what I shot my final like major project on. Going back to Jonathan Knowles and the dissertation, he said to me, if you don't shoot film, like if you don't do any moving image, you take yourself out the game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That is the...
And that for me was the, you know, the pinnacle moment, because that's what I wrote my dissertation on.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I said, is the still image dying? That was my dissertation. And it's not. It's just that moving image is more like the main thing, and still images come second to that. It's more of a supporting role now.
We often get books and shoots now where it's like, oh, the TV campaign's taken care of, we just need someone to come in and do stills. Like you can just have an assistant and a digitech, that's it. Like, everything's lit, you're using the same lighting, just turn up, and I'm pretty sure the video guy could just press a button on the camera. I don't tell them that, obviously. I don't take the money, but we do have a more of that sort of thing coming in nowadays than what we used to have. So you graduated university in lockdown still? Yes.
How it was starting to open up. So it was starting to open up. I'd just done my final major project through I did it all at home in my back garden. I rented a little craft room in a 100-year-old mill. So I was doing my project there. And then that's when I did my first piece of moving image. Then I submitted that, and I thought, oh, what have I got to lose? Posted it on TikTok, 4.2 million views later.
Yep.
Phone, Pete's on the phone.
Yep. So for those who don't know, Pete is our agent.
Yeah.
Or the owner, the leader. My kids call him the leader. Is that your leader phoning? But the leader of Agent at Large, we just call him the leader.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anyone who's tried to get an agent will know it is... So I calculated it based on the stats from HMRC, the British tax people. It's 0.01% of photographers have an agent.
Wow.
So it's a very small number. So yes, so you got a phone call from Pete.
I did from a TikTok video.
Yeah.
You know, and he the first thing he said, "You're sensational, aren't you?" I was like, I guess.
And did you know what a photo agent was at the time when you phoned?
No, I mean, I followed them on Instagram because you know, I found some photographers that I liked, and then I was like, oh well, they're represented by them, so I'll just follow them and see what's going on. Completely to the back of my mind, forgot about them, everything. Hello. Aren't you beautiful?
Come on. Remember, we had a deal. you were gonna be good and have a little sleepy down here. Sit. So where were we? Pete. So
yeah.
You knew people had agents.
Yeah, but I'm talking like big people, like Barry.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce his second name.
I'm going to butcher it for him.
Sorry, Barry.
Macaru? It's definitely not Macaru.
Mariko?
I don't know.
Mariko?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Let's call him Baz.
Baz. Sorry, Barry.
Sorry.
Sorry.
sure
Well,
he's not
I very much admired your work when I was at university starting out. So yeah.
His moving image work's insane.
Oh, it's incredible. It's
But I find his behind the scenes stuff, and it's probably just because what we do as a job, as interesting as the final image.
They're shot to perfection as well.
Yeah.
It's
He
unreal.
doesn't mess around.
No, he doesn't. No.
We'll have to get him on here, actually. He's only in Manchester.
Get him on.
Get him on. We'll have a whole day.
Yeah.
So Pete contacted you. And
he literally was like, we had a very chilled Zoom meeting.
yeah.
And he was like, yeah, we'd love to represent you. I was like, oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
You
go
know,
on
I was
then,
like,
why
yeah, sure. And yeah, back off that 4.2 million views. I had so many DMs. I had a DM from a lovely company called Ginting and Rumting. And they were like, we've got a 30-second ad slot on Sky TV on every channel. Do you want to do it? So I was like, yeah.
Were you nervous saying yes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was.
fair,
I mean, I was. I didn't have a studio. I just had my camera and a few lights. And I just said, Pete, I've had this come through. And he's like, get him on a chat. Get him on the chat now. I was like, okay. So we had a meeting, talked about it. Pete's very good. I was like, this is my first proper big job.
Yeah.
I hadn't even graduated yet. I graduated a few months later. And I'm there doing a 30-second ad slot, for Sky for this gin and rum company, which is just crazy.
That's insane. That's good.
Yeah, hadn't even graduated.
I bet Pete was pleased. He's straight in there, sign someone to get a job.
Yeah, take us 20%.
Yeah. He loves his 20%. He's all about that. Got to check your numbers. Got to check your numbers. He's like,
he has the connections, and someone that literally fresh out of uni doesn't have the connections,
Exactly.
for colour grading and Andy was fantastic at helping with all that as well.
Yeah.
And I literally rented out the same craft room that I was using whilst I was at uni to do this ad.
And then obviously you'd never have shot an advert before, or had you assisted on any advert shoots before then?
No.
Straight in. So
straight in. Because of COVID, couldn't do any assisting either, so I'd never done that.
Conversation with Karen all the time, and Karen's a firm believer that you have to assist for years first. And I'm like, I didn't assist. I couldn't afford to because I don't have rich parents. I had to go and make money instantly because being an assistant doesn't pay enough to live. And I was just like. What in the golden retriever are you doing, Teddy? I couldn't afford to do that. So without disclosing the number, obviously because client confidentiality, did you get paid more than you expected or less than you expected?
More.
Yeah. Would you have asked for that much money if you didn't have an agent?
No.
How much,
I never,
how much would you have asked
fathomed.
for without giving away the number you did get?
I wouldn't have even known how to price myself. I mean, we did do that at university, but it was more like £500 a day type day rate thing. But Pete, straight in, what's your budget? What's
75 grand. That's our starting point. I always think, like, when I got my first agent, I was like, 20% of my income's going to this person. That's a lot. And they turned a client that was paying me £2,000 a day into 15 grand a day. Like the same client, which never happens normally. And I was like, yeah, you can take your 20%. It's still more. Teddy.
Off you get.
Hair and makeup will be furious with you. So explain to me, how does so for those who don't know, subscription models are kind of the future. Love them or hate them. People prefer to pay for a subscription because it's not as big a dent in the budget and they can manage their cash flow. And companies prefer to receive a subscription because it keeps your cash flow even. How does it work with these people and what stops them taking advantage of it as well and like getting all the content and then?
So I'm just thinking about this.
Yeah, sorry, you put you right on the spot with this question.
Yeah, so I send them a PDF with the packages. They choose which package, which tier, how many days shoots is it going to be, how many images you're going to get for a fixed cost basically every month. They pay me every month via basically if you go to a gym, isn't it?
Yeah.
Direct debit. take it that way, for example. And then they pay that every month. And then on the first quarter, they get their content. So it's not like a, I can't remember.
So they've already paid, haven't they, before they get,
So I'm not, what's it, like a, not Klarna.
I know what you mean.
Where you pay for it, buy now, pay later. It's the opposite. So you pay now,
get later.
Get later.
Brilliant.
Basically. But it takes that anxiety out of small businesses of, oh my God, I've got all these new products. I need to find someone that's going to shoot them. And then, they're paying, $1,000 later for their shoot, which they might not have factored in that month.
Exactly. Because small businesses' cash flows are atrocious. It's, they're up and they're down. But I think it's a great model because, I mean, even like at the moment, the industry's not as it should be. Like photography's all over the shop for the big jobs. But even when it's not, I've had years where the first 6 months of the year we've made barely anything. Then the second quarter we've made a lot of money, but no one's paid the invoices in time. And then like November, we've done 90% of our annual income. And it always works out fine each year. I've never had a year that's gone bad. But some years it gets later and later and you're like, is this the year we're going to mess up? Is it like, have we gone too far? Have we pushed it too far? And having all the other income streams and the small bits of cash just to keep you afloat means that when, I do my finance, like if I get a big job come in with a big usage, I don't touch that money. It just goes away because I've already got enough going on from other businesses that my day-to-day is taken care of, if that makes sense. Whereas when I first started out, it was just photography that I was doing. And like if somebody didn't pay their invoice on time, that was bad. And if I didn't get work, that was horrific. And and out of your degree cohort, is that the word? Cohort, class? Alumni. That's the word, alumni. How many of them are working as photographers now that you know of?
I'd say a few.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not very common. Normally it's hardly anybody.
No, but there are a few really great photographers on our course that have, that are doing photography and
doing well.
And doing amazing. Like the content that I see is, they're excelling. They're so good.
Oh, good for them.
Yeah. Well,
that's good because normally it's like one person at best per year makes it as a photographer from the university. Now, interestingly, if you didn't go to university to do photography, do you think you could still do the job?
I mean, university really shaped how I am now in terms of shooting as a photographer. I would not be where I am having not gone to university.
Yeah. And if you studied something different that wasn't photography, do you think you could have still gone into, is it university that was useful or was it the degree that was useful?
University, I think. I mean, the degree was fantastic. The support the lecturers gave us and, those monthly check-ins well, not monthly, but weekly check-ins.
Yeah.
And they are harsh on, you get critiqued like mad, but it's good. You have to be subjective about your work. You've got to look at it and go, if it's hit or miss, if it's missing, what's missing? How can I fix it? How can I take it to that next level? And that was the fantastic thing with university is, they teach you how to do that,
Yeah, and I mean, for me, like I studied something completely different at university, and I think if I studied photography, it would have probably given me a bit of an accelerated understanding of the industry. But I think that going to university in itself is like the useful bit, like learning how to learn quickly. It's like, I need to learn how to do something. I now know how to go and learn how to do this thing because I went to university. There's definitely like a speed and also knowing what good information is, which you don't really learn until you like second, third year of university. It's like, oh, this is how we find good information, not just what Google throws up to us. And
I mean, we didn't do much product photography at university. Most of my product photography is self-taught. Just like because of COVID, all the time and the hours that you spend putting into creating something and researching Google, that sort of stuff. YouTube. Why did I say Google? YouTubing and watching how other photographers are doing it and okay, well, maybe I do need like diffusion paper and that gets that nice light and because that was something I didn't think university had was diffusion paper. So like,
really?
Yeah, I mean, I'd never seen it in the store. So, yeah.
I see we're really cheap here, but the red rolls in the back corner are diffusion paper. It's just tracing paper from Amazon. Yeah, it's like 15 quid a roll.
Oh.
It's not as
Like my
good.
Lee filters.
But it's near, well, yeah, we bought some expensive ones because I was like, oh, I wonder how much better. They are a lot better. But I do like cheap.
Especially when it gets like wet and sticky and you just sort of cut it and throw it away. It breaks my heart.
To like poke your lens through or something. It's like, right in the middle of a 2 meter stretch of expensive.
Yeah.
Although we're discussing polarizing gels recently, and you have to spend money on polarizing gels. Like cheap polarization for lights is just horrific.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then with like green images. So you're working as a photographer now. You have a studio.
Yes, I do.
Very nice.
I do. Cheap studio, but it works. It works. I mean, I don't
How
have
big
a
is it
window light.
relative to? Well, you don't need window light. Daylight's overrated. Just eat a vitamin tablet each morning.
Yeah. I
vitamin
have my SAD lamp there at the ready. 20 minutes. Light to the face.
We abuse SAD lamps. So when we're doing overnight edits, we set them up behind all the monitors. We're like, just tell our bodies it's daytime still. Just keep us going. Poor Rob in the corner there is like nocturnal now. Doesn't know what's going on. No circadian rhythm. So you got, how big is it compared to this?
Half the size.
Half a size. That's pretty big.
Of this
this
part, not your officey part. Yeah, about half.
It's a pretty big studio.
Yeah. It's not massive. It's quite narrow.
Yeah.
That's the only problem for me. It's narrow. So to pull the lights back when I need to, I'm at a disadvantage because I can't pull them back as far as I need to.
Yeah.
And it's not as high of a ceiling.
No, this is a rarity having ceilings this high. It's just because this is the loading part of the whole warehouse. So it had the big ones for the vans and stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's ideal. It's
ideal. It's very cold though. As you see, we're shivering here because the heating.
I'm quite cold.
We have to turn the air conditioning off whilst we're filming because of the noise it makes.
Right.
So every time everyone's like, you've got a lot of clothes on, Scott. I'm like, yep, that's probably freezing.
That's my day-to-day life anyway. I've got my jacket on, scarf on.
Yeah. Have you bought one of the gilets yet with the batteries in it?
No.
So you go onto Amazon, you get a gilet, and you put your like phone charging battery pack in your pocket and plug it in, and it's got like heated elements, like a heated car seat, and you like have that on, and it's
that would save a fortune on my electricity.
Yeah, because I don't know if people know this, but commercial electric rates are not the same as residential ones. They are so much more expensive. Like the electric here is thousands a month.
I can't relate to that. But
it is bad. It is bad.
My electric bill came out today and it was about £40.
Oh my. Well, yeah, we use that as making coffee. Jesus. So you've got your studio.
Yeah.
What equipment is in your studio as a professional photographer who's been going for how many years now?
4 years.
4 years in. What have you got? What have you ordered?
What have I ordered? I've got, I mean, it's quite minimal equipment really in relation to what you've got here at the studio. But
this is really bad hoarding in here. This is...
Yeah, let's not put that on YouTube. I've got 2 Aperture 600s lights, and they've got like Fresnels and the normal. What am I called? Modifiers.
They've got the hyper reflectors, I think they call them, don't they?
Yeah,
So hold that thought there. Let me put the heat on because it's going like frostbite cold now. I get stuff from all the time. So we've had to go for a wardrobe change and try and get a bit of heating on. Teddy bought a blanket out as well, just because it's like the Arctic tundra in here. And it was hot when we started.
Yeah, it was.
This is the problem we have when we're filming in here, because you can't have the heating on because of the noise. Mm-hmm. Even though there's AI noise cancellation, the editing software, it makes the voice go muddy. Okay. You don't notice it on YouTube because YouTube cripples it anyway, but when you put it onto RSS feed for the podcast and you listen to audio only, it sounds awful.
Okay.
Or it just sounds like this in the background.
Can't be having bad audio, can we?
Don't want bad audio. No. In your studio, you have 2 Aperture lights.
2 Aperture lights.
LED lights they are, for people who don't know.
Yes, yeah. Great for videoing.
Yeah.
And I've got 4 Bowens lights.
Which ones are Bowens have you got? Put it on the spot there.
1,000, like 1,000.
All the big ones, do they make the pop when you fire them?
They're not broncolor Bowen, like, no.
No, but when you fire them, do they make that like loud bang at 1,000 watts?
No.
I like a loud bang on a flash.
Yeah, no.
They're quite big though, aren't they, the Bowens heads?
Yeah,
they're heavily.
relatively.
That was the first lights I had in my studio, Bowens.
Okay, yeah.
I had 2 500 watt Bowens heads, and then by the time about 3 years ago, I was up to 15 of them. because I started collecting more and more.
God.
And then because they started breaking, because I used them so much, we had this system where every time one broke, we kept it. And then when another one broke, we made a Frankenstein light out of the two of them, because hoping that we had enough non-broken parts between them to make one light working.
Yeah.
And then I gave the rest of them to a mate of mine. Only like a year ago. These are still Bowens up here. This light, this light. The Bowen stuff is good.
Yeah.
It's underrated, and on eBay it is cheap. You can get good deals now because everyone's like,
Can you?
Bowens, they don't exist anymore.
My Bowens lights.
Yeah.
I love them. Absolutely love them.
A lot of people use Bowens commercially. I see a few photographers shooting food who've got like Bowens lights still, which they must have bought. I mean, the models they've got, they must have bought in the early 2000s. So obviously good build quality.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they're fantastic.
I believe they were made in the Godox factory.
Possibly.
And there may have been, I don't know, I can't say what I know actually. I'll get
We're
sued.
spreading false information out there. Let's not.
Let's not assume we got sued.
Yeah.
So you got your 4 Bowens heads.
Yeah, 4 Bowens heads. I've got my first ever lights as well in there, which were Interfit ones.
I know Interfit, yeah.
Yeah, so I had 3 of those. So they're just like backup ones, just God forbid if anything happens.
Yeah.
But
And how many lights are you using on your average stills image? Are you getting all 4 out all the time, or is it?
generally 2 light setups
Yeah.
seem to work. If I need them, then I generally do use 4 lights.
Yeah.
It's great to have options. Sometimes I need more than 4, but we make things work with the Interfits as an add-on.
Yes, yeah. A slight colour shift in the background.
Slightly, yeah, but we...
I guess they're not as powerful, are they, as the Bowens?
No,
No.
not at all. No.
What sort of modifiers are you using with your Bowens lights?
I've got an Octabox.
Yep.
Your normal, I can't remember, like the 120
Yeah.
by 80 softbox diffusion things.
Those ones up there. No one can see what I'm pointing at there.
Yeah, those ones there. And then I've got a couple strip boxes. I've got like a projector attachment, which is good. It just gives it an extra pop through through your drinks and things. Snoot, like a good snoot with a honeycomb on top.
Yeah.
That seems to always work. That's probably one of my favourites, actually.
Yeah, is that like a classic 80s modifier with snooze? Going old school.
Snoot. So that's the lights. I have my knee filters, diffusion paper, a few, backdrops and whatnot. I've got an e-commerce table.
Yeah.
Which is just handy.
Yeah, we had one of those in here for years.
Yeah.
We ran out of space.
Yeah.
I dismantled it and went, I'll rebuild it. And then I lost parts because I started using bits of it to do other stuff. And then there's just a big bit of perspex left over and some bolts.
Yeah. And then obviously my camera. And then
Still the same camera?
No.
What are you shooting on now?
No. An H5D. Hasselblad.
H5D. That's a baller camera. Jeez.
Yeah.
Do you know, I was shooting on 4 years into my career. Honestly, I didn't get Peter as an agent early enough, but I was shooting on a Canon 50D and it wasn't new at the time. It cost me 400 quid.
Hand.
Well, it would have to be. So what lenses are you using with this Hasselblad?
So I've got a 150
Yeah.
and a 120 macro lens.
Nice.
Yeah, so those are the 2. It is a fortune.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
But, it's a dream camera and all, and, saved up for that. And
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't know if you know this, but like obviously in our world, no one hates on you for what camera you have, but on YouTube, if you've got nice equipment,
I'm going to get a lot.
And you're young,
Sorry.
you get the silver
Maybe
spoon
not,
treatments.
Yeah, maybe not the wisest of decisions.
Yeah.
But the D850 isn't a bad camera, and it's not about what camera you use, really.
It says using a Hasselblad. Yeah.
Yeah. But when I first got it, and I took the picture, the exact same picture, same distance, based like the lens equivalent of what I had. So the 150 was the first lens. And I think the equivalent for that is an 80 mil lens on a 35. The difference is incredible.
Yeah.
It really is.
And is that the mirrorless camera or is it the big?
No, it's got a mirror in.
It's the proper Hasselblad, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Not like a.
Yeah, it's not the new one.
Yeah.
Even though that's cheaper.
I know, but And is it do you have the Hasselblad sensor on the back, or is it the phase 1 sensor on the back?
Hasselblad sensor.
Hasselblad sensor.
Yeah.
So you're shooting into, what's Hasselblad software called?
Focus. Yeah. Focus.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like a Hasselblad.
I should have brought it up.
You should have bought it up. The first real camera I shot on for Big Shoot was a Hasselblad. I can't remember which model body it was, but it was with the P20 back, which is like, so it's probably older than you actually, now thinking about it. And it was 20 megapixels, a CCD sensor, 16-bit RAW files, and the files, I still got them in my portfolio today, they're amazing.
Yeah, the files are insane, but
yeah.
it's also insane to work on in Photoshop. My God, it's like runs so slow.
So which computers are you using?
I've got a Mac Mini.
Mac Mini, which ones?
Oh,
Is it the new M1 type?
Oh, it's got an M1 chip in it.
Yeah, that's what we use. These are all
it's
M1 computers.
Yeah.
They seem all right, though, for me. I don't have any
Yeah, no, they are okay.
major issues
Yeah,
with them.
yeah.
It struggles a bit if you've got like multi-layer video going on, but or
Yeah.
extreme effects.
Yeah.
But it seems to be okay. It seems to work for what we do. I don't want to spend more money on a computer because I don't get any excitement out of them.
No, my laptop is from 2015.
Yeah.
And I refuse.
Yeah.
I refuse to get a new one and spend.
I only got a new one when mine literally died. Mine was one of those old quad-core Macs from 2014, 2015. And it just
Right.
went, not working anymore. So I had to buy this one. I hate I don't hate computers, but it's like buying new batteries.
Yeah.
It's like, we just got like £1,000 worth of new batteries in the studio. I'm like, that is the least sexy £1,000 I've ever spent. Like, at least with like buying a house, but it's like, well, this is cool. There's like, look
Oh,
at
it
the
was so cool.
Yeah.
It was so
How
cool.
long have you had it for?
Maybe about a year.
Is that like your forever camera? Unless like tech changes insanely? Or have you already started eyeing up a newer?
I have.
What
No, I mean, for the price of what it is,
yeah.
it's cheaper just to trade it all and get a new one.
Yes.
Yeah, basically. That's the thought. Is it worth, I get rid of the Nikon, the lenses that I've got with that,
Yeah.
and the H5D, the lenses for that and everything else, and just get the new one.
No, I'd stick with the H5D.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It is temperamental. That's the only thing. It's the most temperamental camera I've ever had.
Yeah, but they're all like that, the modular media
Yeah.
formats. Phase one's the same. We've been like in shoots in Paris on the phone to the rental house going, it's not working and the backup's not working. They're like, right, take this out, put it back together in this order here, press this button. I'm like, oh my God, just work.
Yeah.
but
That was
I mean,
me yesterday.
The Hasselblad mirrorless, sorry, clunking chairs. My camera's not even out today. It's very similar to the Fuji mirrorless that I've got. Like the look of it and the shape of it. And it's like, images are great. It's not exciting to use.
Okay.
And I think there's a lot to be said for having a camera that like excites you to use it rather than just being like, well, this is technically perfect.
Yeah. It's like the clunk click when you
Yeah.
click it, you hear it all. And it's like, oh, what a lovely noise.
It's like if you shoot with the Canon EOS 1 film camera, it's like the shutter sounds great, but the winder for the film on it is such a nice noise. It's
Is
like,
it?
oh, it's so good. And Canon digital cameras, the shutter sound got worse and worse as generations went on because they made the cameras lighter and all this. And because of that, the acoustics of the camera changed. And like, obviously nobody cares apart from me, but I was like, it used to sound so much better when you shot like a 1DS or a 1DS Mark II. And then you get to like the 5DS and it's like, yeah, it's still got a shutter sound, but it's not like it used to be.
No.
Yeah, the mirror slap on a 645 camera as well. It's a big bit of glass going up and down, and yeah, it's nice. And yours has that electric sound as well, doesn't it? Where the mirror goes down again. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nice. It is. It's
We should do
beautiful.
some recordings of like the best camera sounds.
Oh, that would be a great
Like
podcast.
just
ASMR.
Yeah. Get on that. That'd be good.
That's your new business venture, isn't it?
So yeah. Camera shutter ASMR.
Yeah.
So you've got your camera sorted, you've got your kit sorted, you've got a studio, you're only 4 years in, you shot a few big bits and pieces, you went viral on TikTok. If you hadn't have gone viral on TikTok with your video, what would you have done to get to where you are now?
I don't know. I sort of owe everything to that.
Yep.
To that. Yeah. I mean, really, I owe most of it to that initial conversation with Jonathan Knowles. Really. Like, it was just that.
Moving image.
Yeah. And I haven't shot much moving image since, really, which is so bad because I know that it's so important to do now. But when you've got such a sexy camera like that, H5D, you don't really
Doesn't
want
really do
to.
video, does it?
No, it doesn't at all. So it's like,
Is it CCD or CMOS sensor?
CC. It's a 50cc.
50, yeah. You can do video on your Nikon, though, can't you?
Oh yeah, yeah, I can do.
Yeah.
It's just not as fun.
No, it's not as fun. Apparently my Fuji does video, but I don't know how to do it. So I need to get someone in to show me.
Yeah.
And that's a good question, actually. Like, I have no technical know-how whatsoever. No, that's not true.
I can't say that.
I don't know a lot about equipment. Like, I understand how to light. I understand how camera settings work, obviously. But like, I wouldn't be able to make my way through the menu of the Fuji camera and find the setting I need. What's your tech like? No? I don't know any photographers who are successful who are good at tech.
Yeah, no.
Like, all of them have to hand their cameras to the Digitech and be like, yeah, it stopped working yesterday. And the Digitech's like, yeah, you've put the wrong battery in it and it's upside down.
Oh.
Or some stupidity like that. There's always something I've done bad to my cameras. But yeah, that's interesting. So more on the creative, more on the...
Yeah. I mean, I've not, touch wood, had anything go wrong. I mean, it was a bit temperamental yesterday, you know, the sensors, like take the back off and, you know, take the lens off and put that back on and all that. But
it's quite scary taking those backs off as well, because there's a lot of sensor exposed to the world. There's no...
I know, I had to clean it once and I was like, oh my God, shaking in my boots.
Yeah, I remember the first time I cleaned a sensor and I was like, you can destroy it. You really can't.
Well, I'm still under the impression I couldn't destroy it, but, you know...
It's pretty hard to destroy a sensor. They're like a special glass coating on the top as well, which is like keeping it nice and safe.
Yeah.
Okay, so going forward, obviously with the industry being how it is at the moment, it's hard to plan properly. But what's your long-term plan? How are you going to make this work? Is this your forever career?
I hope so. Like, I want it to be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sort of hell-bent on it being this.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine a world where I wasn't doing this. Yeah, it makes me nervous to think that this could, you know, not happen. Do you know what I mean? There's always that, doesn't matter how many stuff you've shot, you know, there's always
the last job.
There is, yeah. So that does scare me a bit, especially with the way the industry is going.
Yeah.
But it just means you've got to work a bit more harder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A bit more.
So.
Yeah.
A bit more hard.
Yeah, a bit more hard. A bit harder to, yeah.
So, I guess, in terms of like, have you ever had a real job?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean by real job?
Well, not a real job. I mean,
like where you get paid
16,
salary, or...
you know, serving plates to customers in a bar. But, you know, I've done that. And, I mean, I didn't work through uni either, which I was very fortunate for as well. So, I mean, I feel I'm at a point where I'm unemployable. Yeah,
this is the problem, isn't it? Once you've been self-employed for a little bit, everyone's like, you won't be able to integrate into society again.
No, yeah, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm a bit unemployable.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a very niche skill set. Do you know?
Yes, a niche skill set that I can only execute when left alone.
Yeah,
in a windowless room.
Yeah, exactly that. So, which it is a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a scary thought to me. I'm like, whatever I do, if this doesn't work, will have to be another business that I set up, because there's no way that I can. Well, I wouldn't want to be employed again.
No,
having been employed, it's not for me. It sounds daft, but it's too risky to have a job, because although everyone's like being self-employed is risky, it's like, well, the owner of your company is self-employed, and I guarantee you, they are not telling you when it's about to go wrong. So you might be taking out a massive mortgage on a house, thinking you're all safe, and then you turn up one day and there's chains on the door. And it's like, oh, my secure job was not as secure as I thought it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think self-employed is the way forward. I wouldn't want it any other way. My partner's self-employed. She'd never have a job.
No.
It just doesn't fit into our lifestyle. It's probably the wrong word, but like into our lives. It's not what we want.
No.
Even when we get big jobs in, which is like a lot of work, like that's a lot of time it's taken up for that one job. Do we want to do this job? Should we like... Maybe we're just lazy, inherently lazy. Should try and like work shy. But then, you know, you can make so much money in photography.
Yeah.
I think is it like that's always the like, it's like I could go and do all this work here for this much money, or do one photo shoot and get paid more.
Yeah. That is the dream though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think we've got a meeting today about my one photo shoot that's going to pay me more, which is exciting. So yeah, that'd be a nice start to the year. If we get a big job in February, that's that. As far as I'm concerned, that's like we're sorted. The year is going to be great because we've already made enough money for the year. Anything else is a bonus. But
Yeah.
what else should I be asking you? Is there anything else I should be asking you? That's about your camera kit, your career choice. Oh, one last question, actually. Yes. And are your, obviously being in the unemployable category, what's your parents' view on this?
They're very supportive.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. They are. They're extremely supportive, and I owe everything to them, really. Yeah, because obviously sometimes it is tough.
Yeah.
It is tough out there. And I'm very fortunate for them to have supported me through that as well. Yeah. My parents,
So I know that my family are constantly like, and what is it you do again for a job? Do you photograph weddings? I'm like, no, like that's still a really good job as a bus driver. You get paid 45 grand a year. He's like, you should really think about getting a job. No, thank you. I don't want a job.
Oh, my dad absolutely loves it.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, he loves it. He's, go, how can I make this work? Or like, I want to get this shot and, how can I build something that, would do this? And he's like, oh, well, you just do this, this and this. And he's like there in the garage building it. I'm like,
oh, that's brilliant. I think having support's really like important. But what about friends? Like, do your friends all have, I keep saying normal jobs, but you know what I mean? Like work in offices or like recognised career paths. What do they think about what you do?
So my two closest friends, one's in the police.
Yeah, that's a proper job.
Yeah, proper job. And the other, she's a social media marketing agency.
Also not a real job then. So
yeah, no. So she completely gets it. But they both get it. They're both very supportive of it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and vice versa of them.
Now, you may be too new into the industry to even consider this yet. Do you have a retirement plan?
No.
Right. My advice to you...
Which is so bad, and I'm like...
Don't worry, I didn't have a retirement plan until 3 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yes, and then I was like, oh, good Lord. Get on that now.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I keep thinking like,
hard
I need
investing. But yes, just don't do what we all do and get to 40 and go, oh, maybe there's a £500,000 job around the corner that's just going to bail me out of this hole. But yeah, it's... I think, like 4 years in, having shot a big job, but there's a few people I know, and I think it's definitely, this is a sign that the industry is changing. On my one-to-one service, I worked with two photographers whose first paid jobs were both worldwide campaigns for massive household brands. And that would never have happened when I started out. You'd have had to have assisted for years. Like the industry's changed now. And I think like with you with social media, when everyone was like, oh, I don't use social media. I'm like, why? It's free and it's easy. Oh, I don't like the algorithm. It's like all this like proper...
Yeah. I mean, I'm terrible for it as well. I mean, I did that 4.2 million view TikTok, which, I spent ages putting my heart and soul into for 30 seconds to go on there, and it just went massive. And then, I mean, I didn't post... I posted maybe 3 times on Instagram last year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I need to get back on that because I just can't keep not posting. Like, who's going to see your work if you're not posting anything? Like, no one's just going to stumble across your website,
No, exactly. And everyone's like, oh, SEO. It's like, SEO doesn't help. Like, we've had to remove a lot of the SEO on our website because we've got too many useless interactions. But normally what happens is people find your social media, they go to your website from your social media and then contact you. Or they come straight to your agent and go, do you have somebody who could shoot this? Or like with the job we've got coming up, it's, would Scott be interested in shooting this? And then, hopefully, we're hoping this year's going to be better than last year. I don't know if you know, but last year was the worst year since 2008 in the industry.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and 2008 was the big financial crash. So, yeah.
It's not great, is it?
Not ideal.
Doesn't bode well.
No, but things can only get better.
Yeah.
Touch wood.
Touch wood.
Yeah.
Touch wood.
Touch this very cheap, it might not even be wood, it's probably just plastic in there. Cheap table we're podcasting on. We might need a new podcast table. We'll see. But yes, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
And I'll pop all your links below so people can find you.
Yeah.
No worries.
And today's sponsor is Fujifilm. As you know, the Fujifilm GFX system is my camera of choice and has been all year. We use it for the larger than full frame sensor, the great color depth, and the usability. It's been a great asset to have those 100 megapixels on set, especially for post-production and commercial work. The other amazing benefit to the Fujifilm system is the colors. I've been using Velvia in recent months, and just to have that starting point before you go into post-production is so useful, and it just makes so much sense to me coming from like a film stock background of going, yes, this is what we want. We want the saturation, we want the detail, the smooth tonality. Velvia is obviously the choice for me. And of course, you can choose from any of their famous film stocks from back in the day and have that brought directly into your digital camera. Hey, Jack, how you doing?
Yeah, good, Scott. How are you?
Not bad, not bad, not bad. So what I'm going to do is just go through a bit of your journey as a photographer, because I assume it's right in saying, and I hope it's taken the right way actually, that you're sort of at the beginning of your photography career.
I think, yeah, when you look at hopefully how long I will be doing it for, then I would hope I'm still at the beginning.
Yeah.
If I'm halfway through, then it'll be a pretty short career. So
Yeah.
I've only been doing it for like 4 or 5 years.
Super. So tell us about your work, what it is that you do with photography. Explain that to everybody.
So I'm a conceptual advertising photographer. Also does a little bit of fashion as well, but it sort of falls under the same sort of conceptual ideas that I do. I really like creating work that is a bit quirky or there's something a bit weird going on. All very heavily based on the concept and making people laugh or the shock factor or something like that.
Super. Just let me quickly check. Are you recording the voice thing now as well?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. So with your work, did you start photography knowing that's what you wanted to do, or have you done different types of photography leading up to that?
Yeah, I think very similar to, I assume, the majority of people. I just like stumbled upon an old camera and just played about with it as a kid. And then into like my teenage years was shooting like street photography and just like anything that I thought looked cool, you know. And then I studied photography, and at the start I thought I was like unbelievable. And about 2 weeks in, I was like, okay, maybe I'm actually really, really bad. Which I was absolutely terrible. And I was just taking pretty pictures, and I had no idea of what concepts worked or what type of images actually excited people, because I didn't really know what images excited me at the time either.
Yeah.
But about a year in to me studying, I shot this one picture that's actually still in my portfolio, but it's like the image that has like shaped everything I've done for the last like 2 or 3 years. But I've got a friend called Nick who has a stage name Mouse as an artist, musical artist, and we did like an album cover shoot for him, and we thought of a concept where the song was called Wasted Year, and he wanted to portray him wasting his year sitting in his living room, feeling isolated. So we took a TV and a TV cabinet and a couch into the sea. I stay next to the sea. We just like bunged it in the water, played around with it, got a couple shots, and then there was one of them that I just really, really, really liked, and it was the first image where I was like, whoa, that's what I want to do, you know? And I sort of just started to shoot things that were very similar to that idea, and it just kept evolving, and here we are.
So when you were shooting that was whilst you were at, and I should know this, it's a degree in photography you did, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so was it a technical degree, a creative degree, or a mix of the two?
It's professional photography is the actual.
I knew there
name
was
of the
some
degree.
sort of, when you said before, there's like a twist on what it was, and that was in Edinburgh, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was through Kingston University, so it was actually an English degree, but I was just studying it at a Scottish campus.
Yeah. Okay. So when you were doing this living room thing, this was during the degree period, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was in my second year.
Second year.
And it was actually for a college task. You know, he used it for his we took 2 shots, and he used one of the shots for his album cover, and I used one of the shots to submit to one of the tasks for the university.
And how was your grading on that? Like, what did the university say about it?
That was like the first thing, because all throughout first year there was like, we could do this better, and obviously it's the point of studying is to evolve you as a photographer. And most of my feedback from first year was like, does this image represent you? And I was like, no, I just thought it was cool,
Yeah.
But that was the first image where I was like, yeah, this actually really does speak to me. And all the lecturers said, that they can totally see that. And one of my lecturers, John, he was just like, mate, this is what you need to go all in on. So that was that.
Yeah, I definitely probably agree with that review of that work. Yeah. Let's fast forward a bit. We might come back to that in a moment. But so in terms of us knowing each other, how did we come to know each other, I suppose, as photographers being opposite ends of the country?
Yeah, I initially found you on Instagram like a couple of years ago. And in fact, no, it wasn't Instagram. I followed you on Instagram, but I found you because we had... Oh, this is hilarious because this is a terrible image as well. We had a brief for uni that was... the brief was just shoot a recipe. It can be uncooked or cooked. It just needs to be a recipe of some sort.
Right.
And I was on, I think it was either Pinterest or another software of the like, and your flatly, there was like oranges and chocolate powder. I don't know if you know the shot I'm talking about.
I know the one. Yeah. They got us loads of work back in the day. That's my most stolen image. We've made so much money off people stealing that. It's brilliant.
It may or may not have been in my mood board as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the way I found you, is on that image. And then just obviously we had like little chats on Instagram and replying to each other's stories, things like that, just chatting about. And then I started watching your YouTube, which is where I came across your mentorship and signed up for that. Obviously some very unfortunate timing, and kind of didn't go far into the mentorship before I just like woke up one morning and you said, hey, fancy a meeting with Agent at Large.
Yeah. Oh my.
To which I said, oh, thanks, Scott.
Yeah. My camera's frozen. We'll just pretend I'm looking all smug like this for the whole call now. So yeah, I think that's definitely where we sort of came to meet each other, through that. And at the time, I was speaking to Karen, who's my agent. And I just started working as an agent, and I was like, we need to tap up some of this young talent, and sort of get it in. And we want to start our, what's the best way to describe doing it? It's like a way to bring photographers in who are not quite, they've not shot the big campaigns yet, but they've got the potential to do it with the right sort of guidance moving forward. So we set up an emerging talent thing. But as you mentioned, this year has literally been the worst year in the industry. There's been nothing, just nothing. So it's not even been the case that we could like bring you on other people's big jobs, because it's been such a quiet year. Everyone's just kind of sat around twiddling their thumbs. But we took on yourself, Emily Mills, and Ashley Pearson. I don't remember the name somehow. To be as part of that, and like I said, like we're having the work, like your college instructors are saying, which is like you, which is something which you can relate to, is one of the reasons we chose you, because your work looks like your work, and it's more than just pretty pictures. And like when we're looking for photographers and signing photographers, there's not that many to choose from. Everyone thinks, oh, there's so much competition, there's so many photographers, but in the grand scheme of things, there's not that many. In terms of those who have like original work or different work or creative work, it's mostly just technically perfect work on repeat. There's not a great deal of anything beyond that. So that's one of the reasons that we sort of ended up working together. Hopefully next year's slightly better than this year, but
yeah, fingers crossed.
Probably not the greatest of years to graduate from university and come out into the working world whilst the industry is having its worst year since 2008.
On the
We're
flip
surviving.
side, though, yeah, if you can make it work now, you can make it work at any time. So now, in terms of getting into photography, I suppose you just found a camera, enjoyed it, thought this is a cool toy to play with, and sort of.
Yeah, my Instagram profile picture is like the first time I ever held a camera, and I was like 4 or 5 years old at a family friend's wedding, and they had like the classic disposable cameras in
Yeah.
the basket. And I think I've still got the image, but the first thing I did was run to the men's room and take a picture of the urinals. So absolutely no idea why. But there you go, 4-year-olds for you.
Oh yeah, quite.
But
Yes.
kind of just like, I loved like taking things apart and, you know, understanding how things worked. And cameras was one of those things, but it was never really like too like, I wouldn't have even called it a hobby until I was like 14 or 15.
Yeah.
And then I had like an actual SLR at that point. And
So
then
14, 15, how long ago is that?
that's
6 years
7
ago?
years
7
ago.
years ago? So you've been, and from getting your first SLR, how long do you think you've been seriously putting in the work with your photography? Like, how long have you been going at it hard?
Yeah, I think I've been doing more hours than a full-time job for 2, maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
Probably I would say 2.5, because the start of second year of my degree was where I was like, right, let's stop messing around.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's like with a lot of photographers that I work with, it tends to take them 2 years to get good. Not to get like to their peak, but to get good enough to be talking to agents, shooting campaigns, not like the big global ones, but you know, obviously you get the odd. There's been the odd person on my 1-to-1 who like has no idea about photography. We do like 3 sessions, and then they're shooting a worldwide campaign for Nike after that. And it's like, how dare you? I've been working hard for 15 years, and then you just go and go, oh yeah, I've got it. That makes sense. No worries. Thanks for the help. But yeah, I always think like 2 to 3 years of like hard work is what it normally takes. And I also think that most people don't realize what hard work is when it comes to photography, like just how much.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
That hard work. It's not like doing a normal 9-to-5 job hard work. It's like above and beyond that. And it's also making
sometimes as well as that as well.
Well, quite, yeah. And it's then making sure that you're actually getting the right education rather than just, because some people spend years learning photography and they learn loads of useless stuff. And I'm sure you've like seen it on the internet where it's like people are like fixating on catch lights in people's eyes, or you know, is this the right catch light, or the shape of the bokeh and things like that.
What setup should I use for blah blah blah.
But what were you focusing on when you were learning? What was like your learning progress? What did you start learning, and like how did it go through there?
Like, a lot of people don't like the prospect of university, and I think I come from an extremely privileged position of living in Scotland because we get our education paid for.
Yep.
And I was talking to a family member who did have to pay for uni when she was younger, and she had to work a full-time job until she was like 28, and then she could finally afford to go to university. And for me, it kind of really put it into perspective. Even if, you know, it doesn't teach me much, I'm just going to do it, and because it's just silly not to, in my mind. But then when I started, I was like, cool, I'll just do the first year and I'll get like I forgot what it's called, but like you get like a certificate. You still get some form of qualification after the first year. But then the lecturers were all like previous advertising photographers in London or in Edinburgh, and were actually really good photographers and also gave amazing advice, especially once I got into second year. And really it was just learning a lot from them, stripping them of all the information, shooting as much as I could, using access, like taking advantage of the access to the studios they had. Obviously you're getting handed a brief every single week, so that sort of lets the juices flow as well.
Yeah, and I think that regular shooting is so important because a lot of people don't like. I'm like, have you shot anything recently? Some of the people I work with, they're like, yeah, no, not recently. Yeah, weekly shooting. I didn't realize it was like a brief a week.
It was mental, especially. So the last year was just like one big project and a dissertation, and that was it. But the second year, I think that overall there was like 68 images and a short film.
Jeez.
All in the 1 year.
Yeah,
Some of obviously a lot of those were series, but like there was like a series of 20, a series of 10, a couple series of 4 or 5, and then there was like 35 single images. Like it was an absolutely insane amount.
Yeah,
like 9 of which was photojournalism.
Oh, jeez.
Don't get me started.
So, I mean, obviously you've not been doing it for long. You've just, like this year, you left university, as it were. What have you achieved so far? Like, what have you shot? What have you been awarded with? Obviously, I assume you passed your degree.
Yeah, I got, so...
We won't ever ask to see the certificate, but...
No, first class might add, but... No, I was working throughout my degree as well. So sort of from the start of that last year is when I started entering into things and getting like decent jobs. Nothing huge, but working with clients that people actually know, you know. I went to New York for an award with the IPA.
Yep.
Most recently, the British Journal of Photography got shortlisted for Portrait of Britain. Obviously got the same with you guys. Shot a fashion campaign in London for Seventh, which is like an up-and-coming brand in London. They're amazing, lovely stuff. That was really cool, being like a customer of theirs and loving their brand, and them reaching out to me was like a very weird experience. So yeah, that was really cool. What else? Tokyo International Photography Awards. Shortlisted for Photographer of the Year with the that's awful that I forgot the name of it, but one of them.
One of them.
London Photography Awards, I think it's called.
Yep.
London Camera Exchange.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Photographer of the Year for that. I think that might be it.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
you can check my website for some notes, but
that's more awards than I've got. I won one international award, and then I went, right, I can call myself an international award-winning photographer. I don't need to do another one.
I feel like whenever I'm just experiencing a bit of imposter syndrome, I just enter some awards to hopefully boost my ego. They're pretty pointless, but
yeah, we'll have to get you onto the AOP awards this year.
That's another one. Sorry, AOP Student Awards as well.
Oh, you've been there? Oh, there we go. You've already been there. Yeah, the AOP Awards is one of the ones which is like obviously very respected, and every single year I miss the deadline to enter it. And then
even the extended one.
Yeah. I got on it. It's extended. Don't worry about it. I'll sort that out next week. And then I mean, I've been in it several times because like stylists have entered my work for it, and the same with the Pink Lady Awards, but I've never managed to meet the deadline for any of those things.
Yeah.
So
I'll send you a text next time.
Yeah, well, I've got it in my diary. It's not like I'm trying to remember. It's all like in there to do, but I don't know. I'm always like, yeah, later, and then later never comes. So obviously at university they have studios and kit like that. Did you have your own kit at university, like your own camera gear, or?
I didn't have a crazy amount when I started. I'm trying to think. I think when I first started the degree, I still had a D70-100. And
was that a Nikon camera?
Yeah,
like
it is a crop sense. I'm trying to think what the equivalent Canon would be, like an 80D.
Oh yeah,
sort of equivalent. So sort of just like intermediate.
And is that what you shot the guy in the sea with on his sofa? Is that camera?
Maybe, because I got a Z7, which was like their first mirrorless camera that they did. It might be shot on that, but that's like on the date when I got it pretty much. So I think that was like when I just first got that one. But yeah, I was like adapting like really rubbish glass, like 300mm, like f7 minimum, some things like that. And realised I don't need them anymore. And when I go and try to sell them, I'm getting like 40 quid. So, but yeah, just like slowly invested a lot of the money I was making from jobs back into kit. But because the college had, like the college campus that we were in had a store with like kit that you could just take for, you paid like the insurance for it and that was it. And in the studios, they had like just redone it. They had like the Ellen Crom ELC heads, which are like absolutely amazing. So really, really lucky with what we had. I used like my own body, and pretty much other than that, I used their lenses, their lights, their stands. Only recently started buying my own actual lights about like less than a year ago. So
now that you've obviously left the safety of the university's kit hall, what are you shooting with at the moment? What's your like camera lens and lighting setup like?
I've got Z7.
Yep.
And then I've got a 24-70, which is like 85% of my work. Then I've got a 105 prime and an 8mm prime, which is a lot of fun.
Yep.
And I don't think I shoot on any other lens other than those three. And then I've got two Godox AD600s.
Yep.
And
are they the battery powered ones as well, where they can be like mains on?
Yeah. Yeah, they're quality and they're so cheap. You know, like 700 quid or something like that. And if you buy a pack of two, it's £1,300. So
good.
They're so good. And you get $600. So
yeah, which is a good amount. Once you get over 500, it's like decent amounts of light. I always find below 500 is a bit risky.
Yeah, I think 400 is like where you can start to overpower the sun, and as soon as you can do that, you don't need anything brighter. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you obviously have your own kit now. Is a Z7? Is that a newish camera? Or is that the first mirrorless you were saying?
That's the first mirrorless. Yeah, I got it in 2021 maybe, but I think it came out a few years before that, like 2018 or something like that.
Yeah. I think like it's a pretty reasonable kit, really, isn't it? Like,
I mean, all the newer ones that have come out have all got the same sensor. They're just like even faster autofocus than it already is.
Yeah,
even though I like never miss a shot anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's no reason for me to get a new one. I'll just run this one till it starts falling apart. So.
Yeah, they do last a good amount of time. I've still got my 5D Mark IIs from like 2010, which still work on like the second and third shutters, but they still took over and they got battered.
I hope this one goes the distance.
I mean, with mirrorless, you should get even longer life than with a DSLR, shouldn't you? I assume.
Yeah, you'd think so. Shutter count doesn't really matter anymore.
No, that's what I'm hoping anyway. So what's next? What's the plan now then? So obviously this year is pretty much, well, everybody's sacked off this year in November. I'm done for this year. If I get a job now, I'd actually be slightly annoyed because I've started sending all my kit off for repairs and stuff for the annual servicing of everything. So what's next? What's the plan next year? What is it you're going to be doing to make sure that we're getting you some big jobs?
I've found a lot of success from like test shooting, and whenever there's a really cool idea that goes out on social media, people love catching on to that idea, which is obviously just like free publicity. And also I think my portfolio definitely has some gaps that need filled. So that's sort of two use cases for test shoots. So that's definitely the last few weeks. I think I've done 4 test shoots in the last 3 weeks.
Nice.
And before that, it was once a month if I was lucky. And then other than that, just London is probably the plan.
Yeah, and is it a plan
as soon as it's
down
viable.
there? And
yeah,
are you going to assist or are you just going to shoot? What's your plan?
I don't know. I think if I can just shoot, then I will. Yeah. You know, I would be happy to assist if I needed to, but if I don't need to, I'm not going to. So
yeah, it's interesting. So Karen and I, Karen Agent at Large, have very different opinions on this. She's of the mindset that people should assist before they shoot. So they understand how things work. I've never assisted on a commercial job. I assisted as a wedding photographer, but it has nothing to do with commercial photography whatsoever. And I just winged it. I quickly Googled what everyone's job title meant and hoped for the best.
And I think assisting, I think the one thing that assisting is good is exactly what you say. You know what people do, etiquette on set and things like that.
Yeah,
But
how to behave.
You can learn you can learn all that sort of thing from 2 or 3 assisting jobs. Like, what I don't understand is people that are more than capable to shoot an amazing campaign and build an amazing portfolio, but they assist full time for 4 years.
Yeah, we're having this conversation with an assistant of mine recently, actually, and I was like, why don't you just go and shoot? Like, there's no reason for you to be here assisting. Your work is good enough. Go shoot. Like, go do the thing you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, there's, I don't know if it's like an anxiety thing or what it is, but they were having none of it.
Yeah, and I also know a couple assistants that are like so amazing at what they do, and you find it a lot, obviously, with Digitex as well, that they would rather make that their business, and they don't actually want to be a photographer.
Yeah, I think Digitex especially, I mean, Digitex get paid really well.
Yeah.
Especially if they've got their own rig and they can rent it out.
Yeah.
They can be
But I think where it changes is the person that assists in the transition to photography. Like, on like proper big jobs, I've only ever really assisted like a worldwide campaign twice. And I feel like I don't need to do it again.
No, I think once you've seen it, you're kind of good to go, aren't you?
Yeah.
One of the big
100%.
things I didn't know, though, was like how to deal with your crew. Because it's not as straightforward as just going, oh, right, we've got crew, we'll have crew. It's like, right, what should this crew be doing? What information do you need to give this crew to get the work done? I think that's the thing I found hardest having not assisted before. I was like, oh, I didn't realise you can't get your assistant to go and make coffee. That's not their job. You get the runner to make the coffee, not the assistant. And like, there's then a hierarchy of assistants, and you've got to wait for I tell Paul, I'm like, Paul, we need this doing, and Paul goes and tells everyone else. I don't like gather all the people around and be like, right then, guys, here's what we're doing. But I didn't know that. Like, it was only because I had good assistants, and they would tell me like, just tell me, I'll tell them. You don't need to speak to those people.
All the unwritten rules.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, we were out last night, which is why I got slightly puffy eyes because Pete destroyed me. We went out for a quiet lunch. I got home at 1 a.m. When I had a very bad head this morning.
Right, he's from London. He'll do that to you.
Oh no, he destroys me every time. And then we were chatting to a client we were with, and they were telling us this horror story about a photographer on set who just didn't behave right. I mean, they turned up high, which didn't help, but like they're like laying down on the sofa, unable to move at one point in the day, and like, but they thought it was perfectly acceptable. The photographer did. They're like, yeah, I'm an artist. And it's like, yeah, but this is commercial work, not art work.
Yeah, the get out of jail free card.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's good to know those things. And one thing I found really useful actually was going on set with Jodie, who's a fashion photographer. Whereas I'm a still life photographer, and seeing how they run a set is completely different to a still life job. Like our sets are very calm and very quiet. Like, we've got like classical music playing in the background. It's all very chill. And then on set with like a fashion photographer, it's just chaos in my mind. It's absolute chaos. I think seeing those different worlds is probably more useful than doing more assisting, if that makes sense. Like going to assist on something really
absolutely.
Oddball, which has nothing to do with your work, and see like, oh, maybe we can steal this from what they're doing and, utilize it better over here. But yeah, well, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, thanks for all the information. Hopefully, it, gives other people a bit of reassurance that, it's not going to take them 20 years to get to a good place in photography. They don't need to spend £500,000 on kits. A camera, and I'm sure you could do all of your work with just the 24-70 and the 2 lights.
Yeah, I honestly think like 90% of it is the 24-70 and 1 light. I only got the second light very recently.
It's good to have a spare anyway, just in case you knock it over. But yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, I'll catch up with you soon anyway, and hopefully with some work.
Super. So what I want to touch on next is kind of understanding what the industry is, because this is where I'm sure you're aware, Rob, I came unstuck. I thought photography was one thing, and it turned out that it wasn't. And this is through no malice, this is through no intent of people online, but a lot of the people I met who were better photographers, had maybe not even better photographers, maybe they had better kit than me. And I was new, so I thought that meant they were better than me. I thought what they were doing was professional photography. And a lot of the time it was part-time photography. It was weekend warrior photography. It was a failing photography business, because just because someone's in photography, don't mean it's going well, or that it ever was going to go well. So all these different things. And it took me so long to realize what professional photography actually was, because I don't come from a background where I know creative directors or art buyers or art directors. I don't know these people. Like, no one in my school came around and went, oh, by the way, you can shoot adverts and get paid handsomely for it. That wasn't a conversation on careers day. It was like, bin man, fireman, doctor. There you go. What do you want to be?
Yeah, sensible choice, or an astronaut. At a
Yeah, there's always an astronaut in there somewhere. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Rob. Obviously, you've kind of seen me learn as I go through, but did you know that what we do now is what commercial photography actually is?
I mean, actually, it's a lot less glamorous than you imagine.
Yeah, considerably less.
That's the truth. I mean, you have all these sort of, I suppose, expectations of, massive sets like a shoot on like a cover of a Vogue magazine or something of that nature, and it's absolutely nothing like that at all.
Yeah, I think the most glamorous thing we get is breakfast on shoot days.
I mean, basically, actually, when we're doing a test shoot and you buys a grounded kitchen, that's probably the baller time of the month.
Yeah, if it doesn't feel at my end, Jesus Christ, buying a whole crew lunch on your own dime, it's like, oh, no wonder clients get funny about it. It's like,
well, yeah, you can understand why there's normally a bag full of Tesco meal deals.
Yeah. I mean, oh God, shoots can be. The problem is, you see the big number, and then you work out what you got to do with it, and then you see what's actually left. And yeah, it's like, why have we got meal deals from? I mean, we'd never go to Tesco's for meal deals for a shoot. The options are, if you've got a good budget, you get a caterer in. If it's a little bit tight on that, we'll order from Deliveroo. And if we've absolutely messed up something along the way in the budget, we've had to steal the food budget, we're going to Marks and Spencer's for meal deals. It's never got worse than that on a commercial job. On test shoots, however, it's absolutely been a cup of tea and a biscuit. Because in the early days, we did not have much budget for those.
No, but that's a good window into the world of commercial photography in general, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the problem is there are glamorous moments, but they're not the ones you think. The glamorous moments are often the parties or whenever you sign with an agent, that's pretty cool. You get taken to some private members bar in London and filled up with booze and steak and, whatever fancy food is going round and stuff. That's always nice. And then the reality of it is not as much.
No, it's like the album launch, isn't it? If you're a musician,
yeah.
You have the album launch, and that's great. So, right, guys, now you're going to be breaking your back touring 8 days a week for the next 3 years to pay for all this.
And I'll tell you what, photography, for those who don't know, is actually very similar to music in that sense, in that you create your portfolio, that's your album. It needs to be cohesive and work start to finish. You go and send it round, and then you get bookings and you tour off that portfolio for as long as you can until you need to get back to the drawing board, which is where we are at the moment, and make your next one.
Exactly.
And hopefully it sounds similar to the last one, so people still know who you are or look similar. But every now and again, you have a bit of a midlife crisis and you go and do something completely different.
Yeah, you look for that fresh but familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for those who do want to know the information that isn't available on YouTube, and you want to know what it is from, either Rob who retouches for me, or for myself who works both as an agent and as a sign photographer, that is what Studio Access is, and that's my second sponsor for today. This is me sponsoring my own channel through a separate company I have called Studio Access, and it's not necessarily the fun, it's not the exciting, and it's definitely not the easy information. It's not the quick fixes. It's that here is what actually happens. Here is how you have to do it. We tried putting it on YouTube many years ago and it tanked horrifically because everyone went, that's not how it works. I'm like, well, it is, but yeah. Well,
it's not what people expect it to be, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. But we'll pop a link to that down below. Because what I want to really go into now is the easiest way and the hardest way to get into professional photography. And obviously this is all coming from a commercial photography standpoint. It kind of applies to any genre, but at different degrees. The easiest way to get into professional photography, if I was 20 again, I would sell everything I have, remove every overhead. I'd move down to London. I would rent kit on a shoot-by-shoot basis. I wouldn't buy a single thing. I'd sleep in the hallway of someone's over-occupied student house. I'd build my body of work. I'd get an agent. I'd stay in London, and I would just do that. That would be it. That would absolutely be the easiest way in. I mean, if you've got rich parents, even better. I mean, you still have to produce the work, but it helps, and it definitely reduces the stress. The hardest way to do it is probably what I did, which is buy loads of kit, have loads of dependables and, things tying you down. Do not move to London. Try and break into London remotely, and then try and work in London whilst not living there, and socialising and networking there whilst not living there. I'd definitely say that is the guaranteed hardest way to make it in this industry.
Yeah, it's certainly, in terms of the route from A to B, the most roundabout way.
Yes. However, it is possible, and I did manage to do it, but I would not do it this way given my time again.
No, and, you're not a 20-year-old gentleman anymore.
Well, this is the other thing. Like, people are like, oh, should I move to London? They're like, oh, I'm 45, I've got 3 kids. I'm like, no, obviously you can't, because you can't change a kid's school because you want to go on a dalliance into professional photography. Like, get a grip. Like,
yeah, buy the 2-seater Porsche instead.
Yeah, just be done with it. Get a Porsche. Be done with it. I was looking at those last night, actually, whilst I was looking at a potential 1987 Toyota MR2 in white.
Nice.
That had a red interior. It looked like the 80s had thrown up on it. It was brilliant.
It's like the Japanese version of a Corvette.
It did have some minor rust issues, I must add. Probably would need an entire new body, but there we go. But yeah, I think, there's easy ways and there's hard ways. And then somewhere in between it is what is logistically viable for you. And I think also coming into that is what you're mentally able to cope with.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to do the same thing today, and especially as a 20-something-year-old straight out of uni, if you're not ready for 120 plus hour weeks, 7 days a week, for at least the first couple of years, then it's probably not the career for you.
No, and I think, like, I look at other photographers, so obviously Jack's moving down to London the second he can. He has an insane work ethic. A friend of mine, Joe Whitmore, I don't know if you know Joe. He's from Leicester, actually, a fashion photographer in London. He'll just get on with it. He'll be up at 5 a.m, ready for networking events and all the rest of it. He's on it. I'd probably have died if I lived in London in my 20s. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you make it the way you can, but there's easier and harder ways, but also...
Yeah. And it's all down to, what we sort of said at the start of the piece, really, that if you have a clear plan and a clear direction of something that you want to do and you want to create and decide photography is the medium for you, then you're already on the fast track.
Exactly.
Just by knowing those things alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us through to stupid things people do because they always have. Now, this is interesting. I was speaking to Alex Kilby the other day, and he was talking about backup cameras. And I don't have a backup camera. He doesn't have a backup camera. And then he was like, oh, do you really need 2 identical backup cameras? And I was like, well, I think if you're going to have 2 cameras, they might as well be identical. He didn't think so. He was like, but he worked in a very different industry to me. Like, my image needs to be seamless from one to the other. So we just rent backups, and then, we shoot on the rental, so as not to wear my own camera out, and then,
well, yeah, of course,
then bang mine back out later. But having backup cameras is not as important as people think it is. The amount of people I know with 2 identical cameras who want to be pros who haven't even made a penny yet. It's better to get a job first. Yeah. And then rent one for what? 30 quid for a camera body?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Well, it depends on what you're renting, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. I mean, I was probably 18 months in before I had 2 identical cameras.
Yeah. I was really far in. I was years in before I could afford 2 of the same. I had I had a 450D, then I got a 50D. So 50 is my main, 450 is my backup. Then it was a 50D and a 5D Mark 1. Then it was a 5D Mark 1 and a 5D Mark 2. Then it was 2 5D Mark 2s. Then at one point it was like 5D Mark 2s.
Yeah.
And then it was 3 5DSRs. And now it's 1 Fujifilm GFX. But I mean, with broken cameras many times, as you. I'm sure
Oh yeah, I
you've
mean,
been there.
if it's not held together by tape, you're not a professional.
Right, good, quite. Yeah, if you want to look really pro, get some gaffer tape on your camera just so people know it's being used.
And you can, the first day you get it, just take it out and just kick it around the street a bit, because you never worry about it being scratched after that. It's the first wound on your camera.
You get that first ding in quite early doors. My Fuji film's got one right across the screen at the top that I did literally within a week, but I don't know how I did it. But well, I do know I dropped the camera, but like it still works. It's all good. But yeah, there we go. The other stupid thing that people do, and again, this is my opinion because my agent Karen disagrees with me fundamentally. Assisting before you work. She's like, everyone needs to go and assist before they get a job. And I was like, well, I didn't. I just got a job. I've never assisted on a commercial shoot. I do think it's very important to do it. And I, again, wish I had have done, but it's not easy when you don't live in London to get a commercial gig.
Especially as an assistant.
Yeah, especially as an assistant. It's even worse. But I'd have learned a lot of tricks of the trade much quicker. And one of the things I do on big jobs is make sure that although I've probably always got Paul there'll be somebody else. So I can learn things from them that they've stolen from somewhere else. It's a great way to learn. But you definitely don't have to be an assistant. And the other thing you definitely don't have to do is work your way up in pricing and level of job. Like you can go from 0 to worldwide night campaign, no problem. If you're I've had it with one of the one-to-ones I work with, who I'm trying to convince to come on the podcast, but they're really nervous. They're like, I don't know if I'm a real photographer yet. I'm like, you've achieved more than 99.9% of photography. I won't be doing it for 2 years. Like, it doesn't matter. You're still doing better than everyone else.
Yeah, but everybody has, some level of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, quite. It's so I'll see if we can get them on. But like, you don't have to do a local job, a district job, a national job, a worldwide Instagram, and then a worldwide print. It doesn't work like that. You just go in at the level you're in. And there's no, like say you're in a food photography, there's no transferable skill between shooting your local restaurant and shooting an ad campaign for food. The only, it's like a Formula One driver and an Uber driver going, oh, we do the same thing. It's like, no, you don't. You both drive cars, sure, but not the same.
No.
The style, the technique, the way it works on set is completely different, and there's no transferable skills really. Well, obviously there's always some, but not really.
Yeah, but I mean, most people can competently take a technically decent photograph.
Yeah,
but that's not the same as being, a 5-6 figure commercial photographer.
No, definitely not. And I think the other, talking about that being a local and a big one, the big mistake people make is they look too professional if they're trying to do a big job. Like, there's nothing that says I don't know what I'm doing quite like looking too professional or behaving too professional. Now we're hearing horror stories of people being baked on a couch the other week on set and being sent home. That's a bit too far in the other direction. Unless you're a really big name, you can probably get away with it. But don't turn up smart in terms of clean clothes. But like, I turn up like this in a hoodie and jeans. Like, that's expected. If I turned up in a button-down shirt and a jacket like I used to when I was starting out, everyone goes, he doesn't know what he's doing. That's why he's dressing so smart.
Yeah, but you've got the whole artist persona to
well, there
keep
is
up
that
as well.
You've got to, people are not hiring you as a photographer; they're hiring you as a creative,
Correct.
Which is very different.
He's always said you have to have a quirky hat or something to be taken seriously as a photographer.
You see waistcoats in the early 2000s. Everyone's like cracking out a waistcoat. That was definitely the go. Paul used to have a waistcoat and a hat, actually.
Yeah, I remember.
I don't know what happened to those. Well, I might ask him to wear those in the next job. I'm like, bring your waistcoat and hat. Let's get it on.
I guarantee he's got some chalk, some from his snooker days in that.
Definitely. So yeah, there's so many things like that where it's just, this is the way it's always been, so this is the way we do it. You need this camera to be a pro. You need this experience to be a pro. That is not the case, and I don't think it ever has been.
No, and unfortunately, it was people stuck in that mindset that struggled or failed completely to make the transition from film to the digital world.
Yeah, and I actually think a lot of the people putting these myths out there are those who didn't make it, because everyone I know who made it did it in some weird, funky way.
Yeah, and you have somebody singing their bitter woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, quite, and they're always loud voices. Those people are. Now, the last thing we're going to touch on is the gear you need to be a pro. Because everybody's like, oh, what do you need? What do you need? You need full frame, do you need medium format, do you need this, do you need that? You don't need anything. Like some of the biggest pros I know don't own a camera because they don't know what they're going to need on the next job. Now, that's less the case in the modern era because cameras are so versatile. Like I have a medium format rig behind me with a Fujifilm. I could shoot sport, fashion, still life on it. 15 years ago on medium format, you could not shoot anything outside of a studio.
Yeah, there were more specialist tools back then.
I mean, not too far ago, you had to plug it into an actual 3-pin plug socket to power it because it didn't have anything on it. It was just a sensor or a scanner. Some of them were. Actually, the Sinar scanners, we should get one of those. They're really good. Sinar back scanners. But you don't need to spend a fortune. You can rent. Like, I don't know why everyone's beef on YouTube is with renting kit. Like, we always use a rental house if we're not here.
No, I mean, even Disney don't own all the Alexas that they shoot all their movies with.
No, and if they do, and if someone goes, it's a separate company. Which speak to your accountants. If you're going to buy loads of kit like this, make sure you've got your company set up right. Because you don't want to be devaluing that in your own dime. But yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of emphasis is put on kit. You can shoot on whatever you want.
I mean, it's easy to put the emphasis on kit because that's what the industry wants you to do.
Quite. And not just that, it's quantifiable. You can't quantify being more creative, but you can quantify being higher resolution.
Yeah. And in the case of your GFX, better bit depth, better skin tones.
Yeah.
Those are, it's not a conversation piece. Those are just facts.
Exactly. But, to be honest, buying one of these nowadays, the GFX is about the same as buying a 5D Mark II back in the day. I honestly, outside of sports and weddings, I do not understand why you'd buy a new camera that isn't medium format.
No, I mean, you buy a second-hand whatever because they're principally the same. If anything, yes, I'm a dinosaur and I know the whole world has moved now to mirrorless.
Yeah, okay.
But if any of my stills cameras broke, I would still buy the 5D Mark IV, which I think was the last great hurrah for that particular brand. I've tried and struggled with the mirrorless versions, and I've used a couple of different ones now, so it's not just specific to one type.
Yeah,
I just cannot get on with it, man.
So when we did that portrait weekend, the first day, obviously being on mirrorless, was a struggle, but by day 2, I was on it.
Yeah,
and I don't like it as much as a mirror. I'll be honest, it's not. But I'm also aware that it's not going to be possible for me to get. Yeah,
there'll come a point where those will just age out.
Yeah, and also you need to have a Digitech who understands your camera, so that means having an up-to-date camera. Like, turn it with some archaic, like, Sinar back, and they're going to start sweating. Like, yeah, great, I need a 3-pin FireWire to 9-pin adapter to. Oh, sorry, mate.
Yeah, the most niche thing in the world.
I do like actually that all cameras are becoming USB-C tether.
Yeah.
So it's just like one tether cable, because before you go to a shoot and the poor Digi's got like 10 different tether cables depending on which camera you've got. But now it says USB-C, and the good old people at Area 51, they have weird names for their cables, but their USB-C one's a banger.
Even the mighty Cupertino crew have had to bend over and submit to Type C.
Yeah, got to do it, haven't you? Got to take the C. It's which is annoying because now I've got all these old USB cables that are defunct. I think let's just all stay with USB-C for like a decade. I'm sure there's better, but it's fine.
Well, I think it's relatively future-proof for the moment. Like all things evolve. Yeah. Remember when FireWire 400 was the most awesome thing on the planet? Yeah. It was like, wow, the speed.
No, quite. But yeah, there we go. That's our big intro, I guess, to getting into photography and advice we have. I was going to ask you if you have any leaving thoughts. I do not, but if you do chuck them in the ring.
I mean, I just, like all things, just get out and do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I think, what both of us did, to varying degrees of success, certainly on my side.
Oh, speaking of getting out and doing it, actually, I do now have a bit of advice. Save up a year's salary first.
Before you go fully pro.
Yeah, do not do what I do and empty 1 month's paycheck to zero your account and then go, right, let's leave my job. That was a mistake.
Yeah, you were playing catch up for the remainder of that year.
It wasn't that year. It was like 5 years of just like stress trying to get a buffer going. And once I got my buffer back, I was like, oh, actually, save up money first. Rather than buying new cameras, save the money.
Yeah.
It'll be more useful being able to eat than being able to take a 2 megapixel high resolution image.
And on another level, I mean, even just do listen to people outside of your friend and family group who will tell you you're amazing, go out and do this. Now, they may be correct, but you do need the cold, hard voice sometimes of somebody completely outside to give you an honest appraisal, let you know where you're at.
Absolutely. Do not listen to friends and family's input. They always either are too harsh or too nice, and neither's a good outcome for you as a potential pro.
Yeah, so, you know, do try and find, you know, an ear to have a look at your work and say, well, okay, this is where you're at, honestly, and this is what you could likely charge.
Yeah. Which is actually what we're doing over on Studio Access this week. There's a big thread. Everyone's banging the websites below. I'm going to go through and tell them, if you were here in the UK, this is what your price would be.
Yeah.
I regret not putting a limit on how many people could do this, because it's currently quite a few, but there we go. Might be a full day's work.
And I think that'll be interesting. I think, you know, both you know, positive and minus, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Cool. Well, we'll leave it all there. We'll see you all next week. Thank you very much.
Ciao for now.